Hi, my name is Doug Belinsky, and I'm going to show you how to pad a spring. This is the way that I found it to work out the best for me. It's not necessarily the only way to pad it. When you get your kit, you're going to get a roll of padding, burlap, and also an underpad for underneath the cotton padding. First thing you want to do is separate the cotton padding and the jute padding from the burlap. Just put that aside. When you put the burlap on the spring, you're going to find that the burlap is probably much bigger than the spring. These are generic padding kits. They're made for a bunch of different models. What I do with it is if it's really big, I'll do a little bit of trimming on it and just take a pair of shears. When you trim this, it doesn't necessarily have to be even. You're going to make a fold in it anyway. I just try to get it a little bit closer to the size of that I want. These are hog ring pliers, and these are hog rings. I'm going to use these to secure the burlap and the padding to the spring. What I'm going to do with the burlap is just kind of fold it up a little bit. And I'm going to start in the center, and I'm just going to take a hog ring and I'm going to catch both the top of the fold and the bottom of the fold and just crimp it down with a hog ring. Then what I'm going to do is just go to the outside. Same thing. I'm going to fold the burlap up, wrap the fold around the top of the spring, and take a hog ring and hog ring it. And I missed the wire. And I'm going to go to the other side of the spring and do the same thing. I'm going to make the fold in the top, pull it tight, put a hog ring right over the fold. And then again, starting from the center and work out to the outsides. You need to remember when you're doing this that this doesn't need to really look pretty. Once it's all covered up, nobody's ever going to see it again anyway. This applies to most springs, not all. Some of the later cars, because of the design of the spring, you're going to have to get a little more creative than this, but basically you want the same outcome. Now, this is pretty tight right now. I mean, you can add a few more hog rings if you want to, but this is really not going to go anywhere. Okay, the next step, what you're going to do is you're going to carefully remove the cotton from the jute pad. And just kind of put that aside for the moment. Now, what you want to do with the jute pad, and this is what I do, there's two sides. There's kind of a firm side and a soft side. You want the soft side facing up. So what we're going to do is just leave that laying on there and flip the spring over. And what I do with the pad is most seats have to slide underneath a backrest. So what I like to do is try to keep as much of a square corner back here as I can. So on a seat cushion spring, on the back of the spring, I flush that, centering it from side to side. I flush that right up against the back of the spring. So the padding is even with the back here. And then what I'm going to do is just put a few hog rings back there to hold it. This is pretty much on a spring like this. This is pretty much all the hog rings that I do is just across the back of the spring. And I'll explain what I do with the rest of it and when I flip it back over. So after I get through hog ringing it on the back of the seat cushion or the bottom of the backrest, I'm going to flip the seat over. Now what we want to figure out is we want to be able to take this padding and tuck it in between the coils on there. But if you try to tuck all that padding in there, it's going to hit the edge of the coil. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim some of this padding off. You try to leave like about 3 inches. You know, if you want to have any question about it, whether it's going to reach the coils or not, leave a little bit more. You can always trim it off, but you can't add back on. And on the corners, if you have a radius in the corner, you want to make sure you cut that into the cover too. I'm going to cover that a little bit more too. And this is just a simple way to do it, so you don't have to break your hands trying to put 1,000 hog rings into the padding on this. Once you do this, it'll basically hold itself once it's tucked into the coils. And then all I do at this point, I'll take the cover and I'll just start pushing it in underneath the coils. And it gives you a nice rounded edge, you know, and nothing's hanging down, so it's not going to interfere with the cover. When you get to the corner though, you're going to notice it's going to want to bunch up on you. So generally what I do there is just take a couple of pie-shaped cuts out of this. Yeah. And then when you go to tuck this in, you don't have a big buildup in the corner. And it'll go right around the corner. And it'll give you a nice round corner. Okay, now if this was a square corner, it makes it a little bit easier. On a backrest, backrests generally have square corners on it. All you're going to do is just cut out to the corner on 2 sides and fold it in. And that basically they're both done the same. And you just kind of make things fit the best you can to the spring. But after you're done like this, it usually comes out pretty neat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the padding on it that's going to be right underneath the cover. When I put the white padding on, the cotton padding, what I'm going to do is try to let it hang evenly all the way around. Basically all you need is at least just a couple of inches to hang over the edge of the spring. So generally what I do is I'll just take it and just feather it by hand just below the edge of the spring. And you're going to do this all the way around. You don't want to put this even in the back. You do want the padding in the back from the cotton. And the same thing, a little more, a little less, it's not going to matter. And then you're ready to put the cover over the top of it. You get nice rounded corners. Helps a lot when you're putting the cover on. A lot of seat cushions have a wood frame on them, and the cushion spring will come with these little tabs that are attached to them with a hole. But whether you try to mount this, what's that?
I'm going to have you point to that tab. You have a lot of them on.
Okay. There's a little tab on here with a hole and a nail hole in it for nailing the spring to a wood frame. Although I never use them because it's a nightmare to try and compress this spring all the way down to the wood frame, hold a nail there, hold the spring down, and then pound it into a wood frame. So what I do is I take and I generally do it after the spring is all padded. Let's do this so you can see it. And what I'm going to do is I just use strips of just scrap material. I use topping material. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around the base of this spring just like that.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so once the material is wrapped around there, just a couple of staples into the wood frame, right up tight against the spring right here. So the spring is not going to move anywhere back and forth or side to side. Close to the edge of the wood frame. You don't want any, again, you don't want anything sticking out here where it's going to interfere with your cover.